The best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people.
Lawmakers in deep red Mississippi are moving forward with legislation that critics are calling, quote, plantation politics. A white supermajority in the Mississippi House passed legislation that would empower state officials to create a separate court system and expanded police force within the city of Jackson, one of the blackest cities in the country.
Every time I wheel about a Jim Crow, I went down to the river. I didn't mean to stay, but there I saw so many gals I couldn't get away.
For 2 years straight, Jackson, Mississippi has ranked highest in crime among major U.S. cities. The stage is being set for this modern day Jim Crow. So get your tickets, stand in line because the show is about to begin.
Get to the chopper!
Y'all stay tuned.
Every time I wheel about a Jim Crow.
Give me back my clothes, please. And so it was that a young song and dance man, who was later belovedly known as Daddy Rice, was the first to bring blackface characterization to the American stage.
Salute and welcome back to Unknown Soldier Radio.
Get to the chopper!
And I'm Dog Tags.
Soldier, you wanna be a soldier?
Yeah. There's a song written by Johnny Cash, a country American singer slash songwriter that represents our entire black history here in the United States of America. Because it not only represents the microcosm of who we were, but the macrocosm into the people that we're turning out to be. And the name of the song is called One Piece at a Time.
You can't make this shit up.
And the song tells a story of a man who works in a car production plant, and after laboring day after day after day, building and producing and putting together cars that this man can't even afford to drive in, he comes up with a plan. And his plan is to steal a whole car out of this car production plant, one part at a time, one piece at a time.
You can't make this shit up.
So in retrospect, we have become whole broken pieces slash parts put together slash stolen to be built into something we will never be. Because we're still trying to steal pieces to build a car that will never start.
Get to the chopper!
Here it is. My test results. Can you hear my heart beating? Oh, the white man's science is amazing, ain't it? Oh, no. This can't be. It says I'm 102% African with a 2% margin of error. Why, Lord? Why, Lord? Why?
Jim Crow is resurrected in Mississippi. Earlier this month, white representatives in the Mississippi House approved a bill to create a new district that includes all of the majority white neighborhoods in Jackson, a capital city that is 83% black. This includes creating a criminal justice system for the district, overseen by an all-white power base. Under House Bill 1020, the white conservative Chief Justice of the Mississippi Supreme Court would handpick the new district's 2 supervising judges. Its prosecutors and public defenders would be chosen by the state's white Republican Attorney General. The zone would be policed by an expanded Capitol Police Force, led by the current white police chief, and supervised by the state's white Public Safety Commissioner. Because all the district's officials would be appointed instead of elected, Jackson's majority black citizenry would have no voting rights on the matter, making it Mississippi's only jurisdiction where, according to the ACLU, unelected judges and prosecutors have jurisdiction over criminal and civil law matters, although 12% of their sales taxes would be redirected to help pay for it all. It's oppressive because it strips the right of black folks to vote, Jackson Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba said, after the bill cleared the House. It's oppressive because it puts a military force over people that has no accountability to them. It's oppressive because there will be judges who will determine sentences over people's lives. It's oppressive because it redirects their tax dollars to something they don't endorse nor believe in. State Representative Trey Lamar, the white Republican who sponsored the bill, lives in and represents a majority white district more than 2 hours away from Jackson. He holds a seat once held by his grandfather, Leon Hannaford, whose legacy includes introducing a 1962 bill to tighten residency requirements for college students, which a local paper at the time reported would have kept Negro James Meredith from filing suit to enter the University of Mississippi. In various statements on the House floor and in an op-ed from last weekend, the legislator has insisted that HB 1020, by adding unelected judges to Hinds County's courts, will help clear up lengthy case backlogs, while an expanded Capitol Police force will address a spike in crime in Jackson, allowing his constituents to feel safe when they come to the Capitol. Calling the bill racially neutral, he suggested Jackson's black elected representatives, who overwhelmingly rejected the legislation, have used race as some kind of political maneuver, and has even gone so far as to accuse those same black officials of incompetence in leadership. If it's not already obvious already, there's really only one way to describe an effort to create a white political stronghold in America's second blackest city, where the black majority is subject to taxation without representation, and that is, trying to pull a Jim Crow. But it's not just the top-down white supremacist power structure the bill proposes that begs the Jim Crow comparisons. It's also the overtly racist subtext needed to justify the idea that white power is the natural solution, an assumption so frequently made, it's recognizable between all those lines of racially neutral language. At the suggestion of an amendment to ensure his bill's unelected judges at least be from Jackson, Lamar suggested the search not be limited to the majority black city, asking, "Do we not want our best and brightest sitting in judgment?" Black House Democrats rightly compared the bill to Mississippi's 1890 Constitution, which was drafted explicitly to exclude the Negro from voting through sinister methods of black disenfranchisement. But the toppling of Reconstruction, in Mississippi as elsewhere, was also driven by the white supremacist assumption of black incompetence, intellectual unfitness, and innate inadequacy, ideas fabricated to cast black folks as incapable of leading. One Mississippi delegate would later write that the goal of the state's constitutional convention had been to adopt some provision in our organic law which would serve to the state a good and stable government, freed from Negro rule from which we had suffered, and to remove from the sphere of politics in the state the ignorant and unpatriotic Negro. For nearly a century, the white racist recollection of Reconstruction would redact and overwrite history, smearing black leaders as inherently unfit to hold office, and falsely portraying the re-establishment of absolute white authority as a necessary intervention and saving grace. Perhaps this history is lost to Mississippi's current white legislators, but that seems unlikely considering the effort they've put into scrubbing it from textbooks. Ditto the fact that no black official has held any of the designated shot-calling positions, Attorney General, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, nor any statewide elected office since the brief period of Reconstruction after the Civil War, which ended due to white terrorism to block black voting power, the Mississippi Free Press reported. Mississippi Today reports that during the 4-hour debate over the bill, as Black House members were doing all they could to plead with the humanity of their GOP colleagues, a large number of Republicans left the House floor altogether for a majority of the debate, reappearing from the back halls of the Capitol to cast a final yay vote. Lamar, apparently indifferent, sat behind the well and scrolled his phone. And yet, Lamar keeps saying that HB 1020 is a good faith effort at helping the people of Jackson and Hinds County, but it sure seems like the same tired narrative of the civilizing power of whiteness being used to save uncivilized blackness from itself. What's more, this sudden compulsion to help by takeover, framed almost as charitable giving, in debate over the bill, comes after years of apparently feeling unmoved. Both Lamar and Governor Tate Reeves used the language of incompetence when indicting Jackson's black leaders about the recent water crisis, but Jackson's leaders had already pleaded for funds from Mississippi's legislative supermajority, only to be repeatedly shortchanged. Jackson City schools have long been underfunded, an issue that was exacerbated by 2013's Charter Public Schools Act, but instead of correcting the problem, a takeover was again proposed as a logical solution. And during this legislative session, instead of organizing a hostile takeover, the legislature could vote to expand Medicaid, which would do far more to aid black Jacksonians than stripping their voting rights could even pretend to. But so far, Mississippi's legislative majority seems uninterested in providing that sort of help. Makes you wonder where the ineptitude truly lies. If HB 1020 isn't an attempt at a land grab, as Democratic Representative Ed Blackman called it, then why does the bill not simply seek to fund more permanent elected judges to Hinds County and Jackson's courts, instead of diverting tax money to a whole new district? If criminal cases have surged in tandem with Jackson's crime surge, thus creating the backlog that Lamar wants to address, then why are the unelected judges of HB 1020 also going to be handling civil cases, to repose another question from Blackman? Especially since, in his op-ed self-defense, Lamar notes that Hinds County District Attorney Jody Owen stated that our current judges are working really hard, but they have half civil and half criminal dockets. Mississippi's crime lab has been underfunded, understaffed, and under-equipped for years, contributing to backlogs in Jackson's courts and all around the state, and yet Lamar's bill does nothing to address long-standing appeals from lab staffers to address any of those issues. Overlooking these problems doesn't seem like a good way to address Jackson's criminal court case backlogs, unless what you were really trying to do was to create yet another entrenched white power system in the state. Mississippi's Capitol Police officers reportedly shot more people in 2022 than any other Mississippi law enforcement department, with the most recent shooting occurring in December. The department's fatal police shooting of 25-year-old Jalen Lewis in September is still under investigation by the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation. At a meeting between the police chief and public safety officers, Black residents expressed concerns that Capitol officers don't know how to deal with Black people in Black neighborhoods, and fears that most of the force's officers are from counties known for their racial prejudice. While the new Capitol District will still be majority Black, it will also include 80% of Jackson's white residents, and guess whose property rights will be prioritized over all else, including certain folks' lives? Never mind Capitol Police lack an oversight board or standard requirements around transparency of reporting regarding officer-involved shootings, as Jackson-based organizer Makani Themba wrote for The Nation. That's quite a statement from someone with deep roots in a state notorious for creating the first Black codes, having the most racial terror lynchings, having a Senate that voted to ship its Black residents to Africa at the late date of 1922, which created the first White Citizens Council, which removed the Confederate flag from its banner in 2020, and which attempted to ban the teaching about all of those things with a bill that erroneously calls it critical race theory. In 2023, the Mississippi House passed a bill that would essentially resurrect Jim Crow. Now that proposed law will head to the Senate, where Republicans also retain majority power. Perhaps Mississippi will become the first state to so openly reinstate Jim Crow, extracting Black power in every form it can, yet again. And others will undoubtedly follow.
Well, shut my mouth and call me compound if it ain't the little old South. Eyes come in, but my head is bending.
Great horny toads, I'm up north. Gotta burn my boots, they touched Yankee soil. Lay down your arms and step forward, Yankee. Well, it's one of our boys.
The sun shines bright in my old Kentucky home.
Hey there, boy. How about giving out with something peppy on that there skid box, huh?
Yo. Yankee Doodle went to town riding on a pony.
Yankee
Stuck a
Doodle?
carrot in his hat and called it the carrot.
You traitor.
Don't beat me, Master. Please don't beat me, Master. Don't beat that tired old body. No.
What's this I hear about you whipping slaves? But, never mind the buts. Here's my card. Look me up at my Gettysburg address. Oh, charge!
Adams failed to acknowledge the phrase "it's okay to be white" was popularized by white nationalists online and is often used to troll people. Newspapers across the U.S., including the Washington Post, have dropped Dilbert. In response to these comments, Adams said on Twitter that he was only, quote, advising people to avoid hate, and suggested free speech in America is under assault.
Every time I wheel about a Jim Crow, I went down to the river. I didn't mean to stay, but there I saw so many gals I couldn't get away. Wheel about and turn about and do just so. Every time I wheel about a Jim Crow.
Slavery is not just slavery anymore. It's just slavery by another name. Salute! dog tags.
You wanna be a soldier?